We're all familiar with the feeling of having to ask someone for help on a task that you can't accomplish yourself. That feeling of vulnerability, of weakness, of having to put all your trust into someone else's hands, effectively being at their mercy. And this is where Law 13 of the 48 Laws of Power actually comes in. Law 13 states, when asking for help, appeal to the self-interest of others and never to their mercy or their gratitude. And this is really a strategic beacon in these types of situations. It's not about lowering yourself or feeling like you need to grovel or beg in order to get someone to do you a favor that they're going to do out of gratitude. What it really is about is the psychology of self-interest, of motivation. So what you're really trying to do here is speak to someone about their goals and their desires. You're not really trying to pull their strings or trick them. You're trying to speak their language, position it as an opportunity that is something worthwhile to them. You really need to think about this as a mutual exchange. What you're trying to show them is, if you do this for me, there is something in it for you. It is an opportunity that has something in it for both parties, and the way you position this is to tap into someone else's natural inclinations. So the reason why this one's so important is it really is a principle that can be the difference between stumbling in the dark when you're trying to play these types of power games or gracefully navigating these types of situations. See, when you're expecting someone's mercy or you're really relying on someone to do you a favor, it's more of like a coin toss. It's very unpredictable how the person's going to behave because there is nothing in it for them. You're expecting someone to do something solely for you. You see, humans are designed to prioritize their own self-interest. And this isn't some type of dark revelation, it's a fundamental truth of our reality. People are motivated by their goals, their dreams. But the key here is when you understand that this is a fundamental driving force, that you're not trying to manipulate, you're not trying to deceive someone, you're trying to tap into this fundamental truth. You're trying to foster a connection based on a mutual understanding. Think about it, when you approach someone with a proposition that actually speaks to things that benefit them, that speaks to their goals or their desires, you're cutting through all the noise, and what you're actually doing is speaking their language. You're bypassing the need to rely on their gratitude, for them to feel sorry for you, for them to do you a favor, and you're actually presenting them with something they may actually find attractive and that appeals and acts in their own goals and in their own desires. So in order to apply this one, I think it really comes down to 3 key steps. Step 1 is you need to decode the other person's motives. What you really need to do here is understand the other person's psyche. What are their goals? What are their desires? Where do they see themselves in 5 years, 10 years' time? What are the things that they're scared of or that keep them up at night? This is the foundation and the bedrock in which your strategy is going to be built. You don't want to just skim the surface, you want to get in deep and understand this person at their core. What are they truly desiring? What are they truly fearing? So the key observation here is you need to listen more than you speak. You need to understand deeply what motivates the other person to get really inside their head. See, when you truly understand what drives the other person, you get the secret key that unlocks their willingness to cooperate with you. Now, step 2 is to craft a win-win situation. See, the request isn't about what you need, it needs to be positioned around what the other person can actually gain. See, what you want to do here is not create a sense of charity or an obligation, but really showcase what the other person can get out of this situation. See, you want to create a scenario where their goals and aspirations seamlessly intertwine with what you are trying to do. It's not about making them feel like a savior. You want to make them feel like a partner. And this becomes a solid foundation for a more comprehensive and wholesome partnership potentially in the future. Step 3 is to emphasize reciprocity. What you really want to do here is really over-index on how this works for both you and the other person. You really want to be highlighting how them doing this activity really helps them in the long run, how they get benefits down the line. This isn't about manipulation, it's around tapping into a fundamental human desire and setting up a win-win situation where there is mutual gain for all parties involved. See, when you plant the seed of reciprocity, it becomes something rather than just a short-term one-off opportunity. It allows it to grow into something more beneficial and more fulsome and longer term, a real cooperative partnership. So when it comes to applying Law 13, there are some challenges that you may come across. The first challenge is ego or hubris. See, balancing your own interests and trying to position something so it benefits someone else is a tightrope to walk, particularly where your ego is concerned. You need to remember, this isn't a show of dominance. It isn't you trying to win one over on someone. What you're really trying to do here is establish a partnership that will enable you to get something out of the situation as well as the other person. But ultimately, this type of cooperation is for you to further your own goals. This will be one that comes up in this law and other laws as well, but in able to play these games sagely and to get the benefits and goals that you truly desire, you often need to put your ego in the back seat. The second challenge is misreading the other person's motivations. This is a core one because you are really reliant on an understanding of the other person's goals or desires and able to position the situation as something that will benefit them in the future or more immediately. Misinterpreting someone's motivations or self-interest here will completely bring you undone because this type of positioning is wholly reliant on you getting it right. You need to understand the other person's goals or fears and able to position the situation as something that may appeal to them. When you misread this and get it wrong, it will fall flat with the other person. You will put forward a proposition that they have no interest in. What you need to do here is to make sure you do research. You need to make sure that you are listening and that you are getting a fundamental understanding of the person that you are trying to operate with. The third challenge here is building genuine relationships. Now this one comes about when you start treating other people as pawns on the chessboard. See, Law 13, it isn't a license to use and discard people. It's actually an opportunity to build more fulsome, longer-term cooperative partnerships. And these partnerships need to be grounded in mutual benefit and respect. Now, authenticity isn't a buzzword to use here, but it really is the bedrock of setting up a foundation for you and the other person to operate together. When you're implementing this law, you need to be genuine because people can sense when they're being used. See, the real power here lies on creating connections beyond a single transaction, where both parties set up a situation for long-term mutual gain. And there you have it, guys. Law 13 of the 48 Laws of Power. I'd summarize this one as appeal to self-interest and don't rely on mercy. Now remember, this one isn't about manipulating or tricking other people. It's around understanding how a situation can benefit both you and another person, and then positioning the opportunity in the way that articulates the benefit for the other person instead of relying on mercy, on them doing you a favor, or on them feeling sorry for you. This really is around understanding human nature and channeling that into establishing a long-term cooperative partnership. Now, if you found this video enlightening, why don't you give me a thumbs up and let me know any thoughts you have in the comments below. Now, if you want to see a video on why it's always important to say less than necessary, please click here.